Hi everyone. So I wanted to take the time to make a video that I've wanted to make for a while, and I have hesitated about making it, and I'm still hesitating about making it, but it's something that I want to do just to put it out there to share my story, my journey the last 5 months. And I'm hoping that it may reach the right person, someone else who may be struggling like I did, just to share about kind of what I went through, what my journey was like, and hopefully help someone else along the way. And also, I'm looking at this as a way to kind of just like throw this energy out the window, shut the door, and it's gone, it's out. Um, it's goodbye. I'm leaving it in 2025. I'm taking a few key takeaways from these last few months, but it's been a journey. I'm going to give a brief summary of what the video is about, and then I'm going to start at the very beginning. So, basically, the last 5 months, I was struggling with something health wise that I had no idea what it was. I wasn't myself, very much not myself. I had a lot of just vague but intense symptoms, and I wasn't getting any answers. In total, I went to 49 different appointments within 5 months from July 23rd to December 22nd, and I wasn't getting any answers. And by 49 appointments, I mean like different kinds of doctors, intuitives, therapy sessions. So it was a good mix, which I'll get into. Um, Thankfully, everything is okay. Thankfully, it's figured out, and that's why I wanted to wait until I was literally through this and I was on the other end, and then I can share my story, my journey. Which thank God, like it's a blessing that everything is good and I'm feeling like myself. I'm feeling much better than I have the last 6 months, which is amazing. So I'm very thankful for that. Thank you, God. Thank you, universe. Thank you for everyone who was supporting me and by my side the last few months. So that's basically just a quick overview. And some of the info that I'm not sure what exactly I'm going to share, what I'm not going to share. As I make this video, I might decide to change it. I will list in the bio like some of the resources of the different healers or people that I have helped me along the way, different resources that I will decide to list. I just want to make sure that it's like okay with them and it's okay with me. I'm going to think about it and I'll list those there. Or you can always send me a message too if you want more information. I also want to make a few disclaimers. So, one of the things that I want to say is that I'm very thankful and I'm very lucky. I know that there's a lot of people out there that are struggling with health concerns. I have some loved ones that are really struggling, and this is basically just like in no way to take away from anyone else who was struggling a lot more than what I struggled. I'm sending love and I'm sending prayers to them, but I do want to just kind of share my journey and how I was the last 5 months and figuring that out and what I was going through. But I know things can be way worse always. So I'm very grateful and very thankful for everything that I have, for my health, for the loved ones by me. So I just want to say that I'm speaking with humility, and I'm humble as I share this, knowing that, there's always someone who's struggling much more than you are. So, yeah, I wanted to say that. And then another disclaimer is I am very thankful for all the people that have helped me, whether it was the healers, the Chinese medicine doctors, or Western medicine doctors who have helped me. So I don't mean to like diminish any of their professions. I think it was just the way the cookie crumbled as we go through and why it took me so long to kind of figure out what was going on. But like I said, I don't want to diminish their help or their knowledge. It was just the way that it happened. And this is kind of a reminder to always trust your gut and to be patient, which is one of the key characteristics that I'm taking away is patience, because this was a 5-month journey. And then the only other disclaimer that I wanted to share is that, like I said before, my whole reason for posting this is just to throw this out there to maybe help someone who could be struggling with something like this and they don't know where to turn, because that's how I felt for a while. And I finally can say, as I made it through the other end, that it does get better and that you can be living your best self again, because there was peaks and valleys throughout, and there were times to where it was like I couldn't imagine living my normal life again. I know that sounds dark, but it was true. There were certain times that were really difficult. So I'm going to start at the very beginning. Okay, so 2025, it was really like a year for everyone. I think we all kind of just struggled in some way. Thankfully, we can take lessons away from it and always choose to look at the positive side, different things that we've learned, and attributes that we can continue to work with as we move into the new year. So I started off 2025 actually having kind of a similar experience as to what the story is that I'm going to share with you. Around Christmas last year, I was feeling off. I didn't know why. I went to urgent care, didn't really have any answers. I went to the emergency room where they did some tests, but like nothing really came up, and I knew that I was feeling off. So I went back to the emergency room, and I just felt like I needed them to just do like a blood test. For whatever reason, the first 2 times they never like checked a certain panel of blood. So they did, and they finally found that I had mono, so the Epstein-Barr virus, which I never had that before. I know it's popular amongst like high schoolers. Like I remember when I was in high school, a lot of people like that age would tend to have it, mono, to where basically you're just really fatigued and you have to just kind of like take it easy. It could take a few weeks to go away. And there's no real medication. It's just kind of like in your system, and then you slowly get better, you build yourself back up. So that's kind of how I started the year. I don't know where I got it from or how I got it, but I basically had it. And a lot of it at first was just kind of not knowing what was wrong. And then once I finally had the diagnosis, I was like, oh, I could take a deep breath and then slowly just focus on getting better. So I'm going to take a drink. So that's how I began 2025. Coming into the new year, my spring felt pretty normal. I was back to myself, I would say pretty quickly, like by March, April, early March, I was feeling like myself. And then as we approach the summer, I'm feeling good. And then in July, I wake up one day, I think it was July 22nd or around there. I wake up, and before I get out of bed, I can feel this pressure on the side of my face. It's like very tight to where before I even opened my eyes, I'm like laying there in bed, and it felt like my face was like in a knot, almost like a baseball, just like tight. So I knew something was off. I get out of bed and I look in the mirror, and my eye is literally like swollen, almost shut. Like there's this huge like bag underneath my eye. It's almost like I was punched. So I look in the mirror and I couldn't believe it was like this bag. And if I could figure out how to put the picture so you guys can see, I will find a way to put it on the video if you're watching this video. But I have no idea what happened. Basically, my eye was swollen shut. It felt painful. I looked into the mirror and I was like, what the heck is going on? So I immediately like call my dad, and I'm just trying to like figure out what this could be. It wasn't pink eye. And it also, I want to say, it didn't feel like what a sty would feel like. It felt tight, and that's all. The best way I can describe it, like my whole face, like it felt like my whole face was affected. That's why it didn't feel like it was so much my eye. My eyeball itself looked fine. Like it wasn't discolored, it wasn't anything like that. It was mostly like underneath. So I had no idea what this was. It felt almost like it was like muscular, like I just kind of lost motion feeling of the left side of my face. So I had gone to my ophthalmologist. So this place that I go, it's very like similar to like a lens crafters. Basically, they have like all these eyeglasses and they have like someone who checks your vision. So it was not like a super in-depth doctor's office experience, but I went there just so that they can analyze and kind of see what's going on. She suggested that it could be one of two things. She had suggested that I take Zyrtec, that it could be allergy related, or that if not allergy, it would be something, an infection that could need antibiotics. So she said to try the Zyrtec first. We'll see how that goes. So I had a feeling it wasn't allergy related, but I started with the Zyrtec, and as expected, it didn't really do anything. So it continued to get worse over the next couple days. So she had given me antibiotics, a course of 10 days. So I had began that the following day, and nothing had really changed over the next few days. Originally, it was 1 week of antibiotics. So I did that, and then I went back the following Monday as nothing really changed. And then she extended it another few days. So I believe it was 10 days in total. And she also recommended that I follow up with my family doctor. So I went to my primary doctor, and he suggested going to an ophthalmologist. So I went to the ophthalmologist. And mind you, I'm going to mention a lot of specialists, but the specialists like take time to get in and to schedule all these appointments. So nothing has really changed with my eye. I've seen my primary doctor and my ophthalmologist. And like I said, yeah, it's kind of the same. It's not really doing anything. I don't think it's a sty personally. There, you don't really see anything there. It was just like this under eye like bag with it being half swollen. So I was in glasses for a few weeks as I was trying to figure out what's going on. The ophthalmologist said that he thought it was a sty. I had ended up seeing him twice within a period of a couple weeks. He recommended just doing like a warm compress, which I did, but it didn't really seem to help. So I had gone back to my primary doctor, and they had put me on a steroid. So I was on the steroid for 4 days. This is post antibiotics. And the steroid helped it to slowly kind of go away. Although it faded, it felt like it wasn't completely gone. Like I could kind of feel like my body never really shifted back to my normal self. So this is in August at this point, a few weeks post waking up with this infection, and still trying to figure out what's going on, knowing I'm not 100%. So most of this had gone away with after the antibiotics and the steroid. It had mostly gone away. I noticed that it was still a little bit pink under my eye, and trying to figure out like what to do next. I continued to take the ophthalmologist's advice and just put on a warm compress at night after the shower and just hope that it would slowly fade. But a part of me still felt like I wasn't 100% myself. As we were moving through August, I noticed that I was a little bit more fatigued. My workouts at the gym weren't as great. I wasn't able to really keep up. It almost felt like I was a little bit more winded, or just my stamina wasn't there. I also noticed that if I went out for a drink, even grabbing a beer or a glass of wine, after one drink, the next day I felt really sick. It was almost like my hangovers were like 3 times as bad. Even if I wasn't drinking a lot, like any bit of alcohol, I would have this like reaction of being sick afterwards. Now, it wasn't like violently vomiting or anything like that, but it was just like this super unwell feeling that normally if I were to have a drink, it wouldn't affect me like that. So in the back of my head, I was still not feeling 100% myself. So I went to a friend's birthday party in early September, and I had some alcohol, and I, it was kind of like a few days, so I wasn't really like sleeping that much. I was a little bit worn out, and on the second day, I had a little bit more to drink. I had a few different kinds of alcohol, and fast forward to the next morning, I felt violently ill. This is probably one of like the top 3 worst hangovers I've ever had. Like my body just felt so sick. And it was so hard to describe this feeling because it was not just like a normal hangover. I was violently vomiting like 3 times, but there was nothing even left in my system. And whenever I like would drink water, I would just get sick and want to vomit again. And I came home, and I just like that whole day, I just felt, this is going to be more of like esoteric to describe it. I just felt like my energy broke. Like I just felt like there was something that shifted during that moment, like when I was hungover, that like something happened. And something else that is like very alarming that scared me at the time was I started to have like this weird brain fog post hangover. So I was hungover for like the next day, still not knowing why, because I didn't drink that much alcohol, but I had such a intolerance to it. And I noticed that there was this like persistent brain fog that started. I'd never really struggled with brain fog before, but it was really intense, and it felt like part of my brain just wasn't working. I'm not describing it the best way, but this is how it felt. It felt like a certain part of my brain was like grayed out. Like I could feel it there physically, but it was like it wasn't working, like it wasn't able to connect. And I was kind of freaking out. Like it wasn't me. I felt like I lost control of my thoughts, of just my daily life. Like it was very overwhelming, and I didn't know where to turn. And this lasted, I would say, like almost 2 weeks, that it felt like part of my brain just wasn't really syncing correctly. And at this point, I was like, what if this is something I have to live with the rest of my life? I know that sounds like such an exaggerated statement to say, but when you're in it and when you're going through something like, you know, the last 32 years of my life, like I've never struggled with something like this or had these symptoms before. So it is really scary when you don't know what it is or what's causing it. So luckily the brain fog started to slowly fade away, and I could feel myself getting better mentally, but physically I still never fully felt like I recovered, especially from when I had the eye infection. So a couple other symptoms started to develop at this time. I had this like persistent um, tingly feeling that would kind of affect my left side. I know I said persistent, but it would kind of come and go, but it never went away. I would feel it more at certain times, and it just felt like it affected my left side, like the left side of my face, my left arm, but never my legs or anything lower than my abdomen. So that was something else that I had experienced at this time. Um, and I also just felt like ill. Like I just felt sick. I felt like my body was fighting something off, and I didn't know what it was. And mind you, I was struggling like in my personal life too. Like, this was affecting everything. It was affecting friendships. It was affecting me being able to show up to work and be 100%. It was really affecting anything. Like I wasn't really doing anything. I wasn't going out. Like I obviously like went to the store and did the bare necessities. But that's basically it. And I like at this point stopped going to the gym just because I felt like I couldn't keep up, especially with the brain fog. Like it was too much for me. So at this point, I had gone back to my primary doctor and I just asked for additional tests. I told him about the brain fog, about some of the other symptoms I was having. He ran a lot of different blood tests and everything came back normal. So he tried reassuring me, saying that you are completely fine, that there's nothing noticeably wrong with you, that all of your vital signs are coming back normal, that there's nothing that I should be concerned with. And he leaned into more mental health, saying that it could be anxiety related or depression related. So I've always been someone who advocated for mental health. I used to work at a meditation studio and I love mindfulness practices. So that is something that I always felt that I kind of had a one foot in the door, that I've had experience with before. And I know we all kind of go through our peaks and valleys, but I felt like it was something that I could handle. And I knew that that wasn't the base of the root of what was causing these issues. So this doctor that I had seen had actually prescribed an anti-anxiety, anti-depression medication, which I didn't feel comfortable taking. I just knew that it wasn't me and I didn't want to be dependent on this medication. And just another disclaimer, everyone's different. There are times that we need it, that it's really helpful, and then there are times to where maybe not so much, but everyone's different. So this was just my personal experience. This isn't to say that people should or shouldn't take it, but I just personally didn't want to take it. There were a few days to where I felt really overwhelmed, to where I did need to take it, which is fine, and it really helped calm me down. But a lot of this was coming from the unknown of why I was feeling this way and having no answers. Everything on paper showed that I was doing fine, that I was perfectly healthy, perfectly normal, but I just knew that something was significantly off and I wasn't getting anywhere. So I had asked the doctor to run some more tests, and he said basically, there's nothing else that we can really do at this point. Like, why don't you seek out a therapist, talk with her or him, and we'll touch base again in a month. So I was still overwhelmed at this point. I needed answers. I had decided, it would be great to get a therapist just to help me through this process of not really feeling heard or seen or understood why I'm feeling this way. So I got a therapist. It was my first time. I love her. She's great. And I started seeing her once a week. And a lot of the things we discussed was like, kind of walking me through the process of like, what is going on? Is it all in my head, or is it something that is like really going on? And this whole time my gut was telling me like, there is something wrong. There is something off. I also wanted to say that I was leaving no stone unturned in terms of finding what the cause was. So I had originally, Google searches came up, which I tried to limit my Google searches, but Google searches would come up for the Chagas disease, which is like the kissing bug disease. So I had pushed to get tested for that. It came back negative, but I had pushed to have mold testing. So my building manager, fortunately, was able to test my apartment for mold, because a lot of like the brain fog and the fatigue are common signs of mold exposure. That came back negative. I thought possibly with my stomach upset and my weight loss, thought that it could be celiac disease, something that was causing an intolerance in my body, especially with the intolerance to alcohol. I thought that that's what that could be, but that also was negative. So I was really just Lyme disease. That was negative. I was like literally going to all of these alternative, more obscure I also just wanted to share this important like segment, this detail of throughout September and October, I would have these like episodes that would flare up and that would cause all of my symptoms to start. So I had recorded in my notes app every day, like how I was feeling, what symptoms I was experiencing, just so I had a record when communicating with doctors and looking at the cycles of how my symptoms would flare up. And basically, my first, as I would call it, episode happened in early September at my friend's birthday party when I was really hungover. And I had the significant brain fog in the 2 weeks that followed. And then I had a couple other occurrences of these episodes. And basically what an episode would be is I would have this this like doom or gloom, overwhelming feeling. And I would have this like complete brain fog. Like I still knew where I was. I was able to still hold conversations, but it was almost like my brain was disassociating from my body. And I also noticed that my temperature would range. Like I would be very hot and then very cold, and like I would need to like kind of go outside and walk around. It is kind of like adjacent in talking to my therapist of what a panic attack would be, but there would be something that would kind of trigger this. And there were a couple times to where I would smell something that wasn't there. It was like this burning rubber smell. And that's when I got really frightened, is all of these sensory effects are happening in my body and I didn't know what was causing it. And these episodes would tend to last for like a few days after the initial onset of these symptoms. So in describing this to my therapist, she said it could be a panic attack. And I had seen a neurologist in the meantime, and the neurologist actually believed that it could be what would be described as a seizure, which I truly, although it felt like it could have been, I truly didn't think that it was. Although I had significant brain fog, it just something was like telling me it wasn't, thankfully, a seizure. But yeah, so I had probably 3 or 4 of these episodes in total within a period of like 6 weeks from early September through the end of October. And throughout this time, as I was seeing my therapist weekly, I was pushing my doctor to recommend me to see some specialists or possibly a second opinion, just someone who can give me more testing. That's what I was fighting for from the beginning because, like I said, no shade to my doctor, but I just needed answers. I needed more testing. My doctor had kind of gone on vacation for a couple weeks, so he wasn't even around. So I, at this point, went to see a different primary doctor who was great, and he gave me some referrals to different specialists that I saw. So I had gone to see a neurologist, or was given a referral, I should say, for a neurologist. I was pushing for an infectious disease because I felt, like I said, that my body was fighting off something. And then, sorry, I have a list because there were so many. A neurologist, an infectious disease, a rheumatologist, just because I had some like nerve discomfort in my left side, a gastroenterologist, and those were basically all of the specialists they had recommended. I had seen the rheumatologist who was also really helpful. And each doctor that I saw gave me certain feedback. So I'm thankful for each person that helped me because it was like small things here and there. But I was really at a point of like wanting to cross everything off the list. So at this point, because specialists sometimes can take a while to get in, I had gone to the emergency room one time. I had gone to urgent care multiple times, just knowing that I didn't feel well and just like begging them to please test me for something else, test me for this, test me for that. There has to be something that slipped through the cracks. And at this point, there were like nights that I just couldn't sleep. Like, I was up all night. I was calling my parents. I was leaning into some friends. I was sleeping at other friends' homes because I just like didn't want to be alone. I did not feel like myself. I was really going through it and I just wanted answers. It was really tough. So I continued to push for more testing. I had, after the rheumatologist, I had wanted to do some alternative medicine to possibly get some answers. So I had gone to see two different acupuncturists, one specialized in Chinese medicine, which was helpful. It really calmed me down. And then the second one that I saw specialized in Korean acupuncture, which I learned is mostly um, the needles going in the hands and the feet. I went to 2 sessions and that also helped calm me down. So this really helped my central nervous system, which was really being affected at this time. I think a small portion of this was anxiety regarding why I'm not having answers as to why I'm feeling off. So this definitely did help that, although I was still deeply struggling with what the root of the problem was and what was causing all of these side effects. One of the other things that I had noticed was that I was not eating as much. I was losing weight significantly. I lost close to 23 pounds between early September and late October. So less than 2 months, I lost almost 25 pounds. So at that point, I was able to get in to see a gastroenterologist who had recommended that I got a scope just to check out my esophagus and my stomach and my bowel just to make sure everything was okay. So I had originally booked that for January, as sometimes testing takes months to get in. I was still pushing to see a infectious disease doctor, which I had been denied multiple times, even though I had probably 3 or 4 referrals in total. The infectious disease doctors just didn't want to take my case because all of my blood work was coming back normal. Everything was showing that I was fine, and I just didn't have anything to show for besides my weight loss. That was really the only thing on paper that was coming up as like, hey, there's something going on here. So that was one of the other biggest struggles, is like I knew how I felt and there was nothing really to show for. And it was really frustrating. It was hard. Like I said, there were many nights to where I like didn't sleep. I wasn't eating much. Like this was one of the hardest things that I had ever had to go through physically and emotionally. And I just didn't know where to turn. So in addition to the Chinese medicine doctors, I had reached out to two different energy healer psychic mediums. Both were great. Both, I will say, were accurate in sharing what they picked up on. Although it didn't pinpoint the root cause of what was going on, it really gave me hope and it gave me the tools to continue to be patient and push forward. So one of the psychics had suggested that I had something in my body, that it was more of like an infection or something, parasitic infection, something that was affecting my system. It could have been caused from the Epstein-Barr virus that I had earlier in the year. And then the second psychic had mentioned that there was something related to like two balls or two, she basically said two balls, which I was not really sure what that meant. And I also asked one of the questions, I was like, was it more energetic or was it more medical, like physical in my body? Because another thing that came up was, is it like an energetic block that I'm having this like weird reaction to? Because at this point, I literally was just ruling everything out. I didn't want to take anything off the list because at this point I wasn't getting any answers. So I was in a very desperate place. So I took some of the things that both of these psychics said. I had wrote them down and it really helped me. although I didn't, like I said, get the answers specifically from them, but it helped to move forward. I had also connected with someone who did a hair follicle treatment. I went down to Orange County and she did a hair follicle testing to look into some of the lab results through hair follicle testing. And then I also did a session with an energy healer, which it was a great session and I highly recommend it. I just wasn't in the right like physical energetic space or the right mindset just because I was going through so much, but this did help calm my nervous system, which is what I needed at the time, just to give me more patience. So as the weeks were continuing to pass by, I still wasn't getting any answers. I had gone to both of my primary doctors a couple additional times, as well as a urgent care here and there. Like I would just honestly like pop in, like just because I wanted answers, and I was getting really desperate at this point. Moving forward, I finally was able to schedule with an infectious disease doctor, although the appointment wasn't until January. And then I also leaned into one thing that I knew that had always helped me was breathwork meditation. So I leaned into 2 meditation studios that I go to here in LA just to calm my nervous system. I needed something, and this is why acupuncture helped my nervous system, because literally needles going to my body helped kind of like me relax. I know it sounds weird to say, but it really just kind of helped my energy meridians. And something similar to that, energy work wise, was breathwork meditation. These rhythmic breathing that helps release stuck energy. So I went and got 2 different types of memberships to 2 different meditation studios, and the breathwork classes helped me so much. Literally from when I sat down to when I finished, I could feel the pressure in the left side of my head. It just released. And like my sinuses would be completely different at the end. It's like all of these blocks kind of loosened up and I just felt so much better. Like I knew I still wasn't, it wasn't the root of the cause, the root of the problem, but I just felt 10 times better than before. As I kind of navigated, continuing my journey just to see what this was. Like, it helped my nervous system, and that's what I needed at the time. So I had fortunately been able to move up my scope, my colonoscopy, to early December from January when it was originally scheduled. So I went in and I had the upper endoscopy and the lower endoscopy done. And this is where the breakthrough came from. I'm taking a deep breath because, sorry, I've been talking fast, but this just like, it feels good to have an answer. So they did find something. Fortunately, everything was okay, but they did find that I had a fungal infection in my upper esophagus. So it was such a relief when they came back sharing this information. It had been months, 5 months of struggling and not knowing why, not knowing what was wrong, not knowing if it was all in my head, as some of my doctors had said that, it was more mental health related, but no, there was something physically wrong. And it just felt so like a breath of fresh air, a huge relief to know that my feelings, my physical feelings were valid. And yeah, so it was a fungal infection. We don't know exactly how I got it, but my doctor believes that it was caused from the antibiotics that I was on. And from there, it could continue to get worse over time, especially when it's paired with any kind of alcohol that will continue to affect it and have it grow and develop. And it can cause a lot of the symptoms that I was having. So the significant brain fog. One of the other facts that I left out is I had seen a neurologist at some point too, and I had 2 MRIs done. And there was a point to where the neurologist thought that they could have been seizures, these like little episodes that I had. But thankfully that wasn't the case. And yes, it was like a breath of fresh air to finally have an answer as to why I wasn't feeling well. He prescribed this antifungal medication that I was on for 2 weeks. I literally just finished it and I'm feeling 100% myself. I feel so much better, and I'm so thankful for this doctor and for everyone who really helped me along this um this road that I was on, this trail, like this rough path, whatever you want to call it. I had taken away a lot of things. I'm lucky that I got to spend more time with loved ones. I really didn't do much the last 5 months, but I am so grateful for all the people who showed up for me and thankful for all of the medical staff who was there. And it just really taught me about being patient and about trusting your gut. You know yourself better than anyone else. And for anyone else out there who may be struggling or feeling off or feeling not heard or not seen or not understood, just keep pushing forward and don't give up. Know that there is an answer out there for you. So don't continue, as you may be frustrated, don't stop pushing. Just continue on your journey and know that it can get better, and that there are even certain kinds of meditation that can help, like breath work, that might not solve the problem, but it can help with anxiety. It can help with your nervous system in relation to whatever else you might have that's going on. So I wanted to share this because it was a significant part of my last year. It was literally 5 months. And it was tough. It was really hard, but like I said, I'm very thankful that I figured out what it was and that I was able to take care of it, and I'm feeling 100% myself again. And thank you guys for watching. I wanted to also, like I said, thank the medical staff, thanks my loved ones who have been there with me, and I hope that no one else has to struggle with this. So yeah, fungal infections are a thing. They must not show on just basic blood work unless it's like a specialized test. But this goes to show you that there is an answer out there and that you shouldn't give up, even though it can be very, very difficult. So you got this, and I'm happy to be feeling like myself again. Here's to a wonderful 2026 for all of us.